Dr. Maslin, new data shows the first clinical evidence of modulating systemic inflammation by oral microbial therapy. Why is this such exciting news?
Thank you. So I think it's exciting for a number of reasons. EDP 1815, the treatment that we're talking about, really opens up a whole new wave of treatments for inflammatory diseases. Obviously, we've started with mild to moderate psoriasis, as you've seen, and it's really provides, or these results provides, a proof of concept for what we call syntax, so the small intestinal axis. So preclinically, we have, I think, as I explained in my talk, for those who have been able to access the talk, we have really exciting data that EDP 1815 can work across all types of inflammation models, so Th1, Th2, and Th17 inflammation, which could then theoretically translate to treating a whole range of inflammatory diseases. So I think the key thing about these results is they're exciting for psoriasis, and we're obviously moving forward in psoriasis with our phase 2 study now across Europe and the US, but it's also exciting for other inflammatory diseases as well.
You mentioned that it's especially helpful for the treatment of patients with mild to moderate psoriasis. I believe at the moment there are not that many treatment options available, so this will be, very helpful to them.
Yeah, and I think that was the key point for me. When I heard about this potential treatment in its earlier days, I was working full-time in dermatology, and there are quite a lot of treatments, as you'll see at the EADV Congress, for moderate to severe psoriasis, a lot of biologics and some oral treatments as well. And that's where a lot of the therapies are targeted, and there's really nothing, or very little orally for these patients with mild to moderate disease. There are the topical treatments, but from my experience, patients really do struggle with putting on creams every day. It can take them hours a day, and they try as hard as they can, but in the end, most of the time they give up with the treatments. They're just not able to keep persisting with the effort that takes, and they're looking for something else. And what their studies have shown, what they're really looking for is an oral treatment that's really safe. It doesn't have side effects, something they can just take ideally once a day. And so yes, I think EDP 1815 will hopefully fill that gap for them. And it's something oral, it's safe, they can take it once a day. And that's really our reason for going after these mild to moderate patients, is there's nothing for them at the moment.
You just mentioned that you're moving into a phase 2 study in the UK and the US. How long do you think it will take for the treatment to be available in practice?
Yeah, so the phase 2 study is underway. It's going to be in 225 patients, and it's in the US, UK, and also Poland and Hungary as well. So the results of that, we'll have the interim data midway through next year, 2021. But anything in terms of looking more forward into when will the drug be available for patients outside of clinical trials, it's too early really to say. I think we have to look at the results of the phase 2, and then just with the phase 2 results, we speak to the regulators about the phase 3 program and take it from there. So I can't give a specific date yet.
But would you say within the next 5 years this might become available?
I can't give a specific date, but as you know, yeah.
But in any case, very exciting. Okay, on a different note, this has been a very challenging year for everyone. Did you have any difficulties in performing your research in general, and how do you see especially psoriasis patients affected by the corona regulations that are basically in place everywhere now?
Yeah, so actually it didn't affect this phase 1B, these phase 1B cohorts, which were already completed before the COVID pandemic came out. Obviously, it's had an effect in a way on planning for everything that we do. And actually with EDP 1815, because of its broad action across different types of inflammation, it is also active in 2 COVID studies at the moment, which is really interesting. The preclinical data showed that EDP 1815 is likely to have a good effect at reducing that inflammation we see in COVID. So essentially how it works for psoriasis and COVID as well is these patients have a lot of inflammation in their system, all different types, as you'll hear about at the conference. And EDP 1815 works by bringing those exaggerated levels of inflammation back down to the normal level. So it's using our innate system, that syntax within the gut, to settle the inflammation back down to where it should be. So it uses the body's kind of natural inflammation resolving mechanism to do that. So essentially what that means, answering your question, is it's able to treat the inflammation associated with COVID. So it should be very safe in these COVID patients, and we're hoping that it's effective. So that's underway. And I guess in terms of the psoriasis study, we just had to plan for it, and it hasn't impacted our phase 2 enrollment. Actually, we're on track at the moment in our phase 2 psoriasis program.
For our members that are particularly interested also in this research you just mentioned with COVID-19, I mean, that sounds fascinating. How can they look into what you're doing now? Is there like a web page, or has there anything been published yet?
So there will be some details on the company website of the studies that we're doing. One of the studies is a phase 2 study with Rutgers University. It's in the US. And one of the studies is actually a phase 2/3 study called Tactic-E, which is being run not by us as a company, but being run by Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge in the UK. So they are the sponsor of the study. It's one of these national platform studies that's running at multiple hospitals. And EDP 1815 was selected as one of the agents for that study. So that's very exciting, actually, and that's a large COVID study in hospitalized patients. So yes, I can't say again when the results will be. I think we're looking at interim results. It's likely to be, I think we've said next year, but the details will be on our company website.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing your super interesting research with us. And we wish you a great congress and good luck with the phase 2 studies.